Hey, my friends, welcome back to the Body Led by Design podcast. I'm Melissa, and today we're going to talk about a GLP, the mindset that it's either magic or it's mandatory. Because many times I'll hear people say, oh, I just think I just need a GLP. And on the flip side, I'm on a GLP, and so I don't really need to learn how to eat. And both of those beliefs are going to keep you stuck and going to continue to get you the same result over and over again. And today I'm going to show you why and what actually works instead and the skills you need to develop with or without a GLP. Because I am somebody who, if you've heard me talk before, this is your first episode, is that I don't really ever live in the camp of black or white. I believe a GLP is a very useful tool. And I also completely see that weight loss can happen without a GLP. You can achieve it with or without. And that's the beauty of the world we live in, is that it doesn't have to be polarizing. You don't have to use one if you don't want to, and you can lose weight without one. And you can also use it if you want to and not have to use it with shame or thinking you're doing something wrong, and just developing the responsible behaviors that you should learn how to do with or without a GLP. But when we come to a point where we're like, oh, I think that this is the only thing that is going to help me, what's actually living underneath that thought is that this is my only way out. This is my last option. Clearly, I can't do this myself. This is not a plan. This is a red flag coming up. Because when you say, I'd like to use a GLP while I learn how to eat for the body I have right now and develop the skills I need to have, that's a completely different woman who's going to get a completely different result. That's someone that's deciding to use a GLP responsibly in a way that builds her skill and creates results, and you get to keep those results forever. So that's exactly what we're talking about today. Because what I see happening, the most common thing that I watch when women come to me on a GLP, and I'm going to walk you through this, not to scare you about using a GLP, but because many times people don't actually explain this. Like, we see these things happen maybe online. People will do scare tactics of using a GLP or not using a GLP, or you're still to get ads about the side effects of GLP. But I want to paint the picture of why it's so important to still develop the skills that you need while you're on a GLP. You can develop the skills while you use it. You don't have to develop the skills beforehand. You can do it while you're on it. But many times we start a GLP and our day-to-day life, it hasn't changed. It's not changing your circumstances. It's not changing your work. It's not changing your kids. It's not changing your schedule. It's not changing the chronic day-to-day stress that you're in. And most likely before the GLP, you were already eating in an unstable way. You were already eating in a way that you didn't really love. You were probably under eating, or you were possibly overeating calories while undereating nutrients, or just undereating in both camps. The GLP, what I see is that it alleviates the crash and burn. It's the late afternoon snacking that starts to sneak up, the nighttime eating, the weekends that feel like, oh, I just need a break. And then we end up overeating or going out or eating things that just aren't going to help us reach our goals. And when we start a GLP, that can alleviate some of those things, that those habits that we were doing beforehand that had us eating basically junk and processed foods that weren't allowing us to burn body fat. And when you start a GLP, that can work for a while, but then it doesn't, because at some point you're going to need to go up in your dosing. Higher dosing can mean some more side effects, and your body is desperately trying to hold on for dear life at that point, because many times by that point you've been in a calorie deficit, a quite large calorie deficit for a significant amount of time as you increase in your dosing. And your body doesn't have access to what it needs to feel safe and to be able to create energy. So the higher up we go in our dosage, the higher the numbing of the food noise gets, and the less and less and less and less that we eat while we're on that GLP. So we end up with other side effects. We end up with hair loss. We end up with thyroid changes. We end up with hormones crashing, with low energy, with sleepless nights, with losing muscle. These are all side effects of rapid or prolonged weight loss, where the body hasn't had access to the calories and the nutrients that it needs in order to feel safe, in order to create hair in order to create collagen, in order to create thyroid hormone, in order to create hormones and detox hormones, in order to create muscle. All of those things that give our body that raw material, our body still needs, even while being on a GLP. So if we go into a GLP and we go in with shitty habits, we're going to come out with shitty habits and we're going to come out with shitty results. Those side effects are not actually side effects of the medication. Those side effects are of rapid weight loss or weight loss that's been happening for too long without ever giving the body a break, without enough energy and nutrients coming in to allow that body to feel safe to create the things that we need to create in order to feel human and to feel good in our body. Sometimes we just think that the GLP is going to alleviate the need to develop skill. It's just going to just create this version of us that just knows what to do and how to do it. But it doesn't. When we use it in that way, we're still the same person with the same old circumstances of our day-to-day life, still doing the same things that we were doing before, but now we're just eating less because we can't hear all the noise that was happening inside of our body before. It's really a Band-Aid when we use it in this approach. A GLP can be a beautiful tool and it can also be a Band-Aid. And I want to ask you, which way do you want to use this? Use a GLP in the way of a Band-Aid or the way of a tool? I know that my audience wants to use it in the way of a tool. But when we use it in a Band-Aid, we don't ever learn the skills that we need to learn. We're right back to the same problem. And after a long period of time of being on a GLP, we actually end up with more problems or we end up into a worse state. It's like teaching somebody to fish versus fishing for them. We all know that we need to learn how to fish. We learned these skills in elementary school, in high school, in college, through all of our entire life, but we just keep looking for a way around it, especially with weight loss. Because if you lose weight and you never learn how to eat for this body you have right now, a year from now, you end up with the side effects of underfueling your body. Maybe you hit a weight loss goal and you think, oh, I'm done. I can taper or I can stop now. But because your body's been underfed for so long, that moment you taper, the food noise now comes back louder than it's ever been before because your body's finally able to say, I need food right now. And if you think the food noise is bad right now, take away all of your body's access to body fat and the way that it feels safe. Now it's going to be really loud. And it's going to be nearly impossible to keep that weight off if you've never learned the skills that you need to learn for the body that you have right now. Eating for blood sugar stability, never learning how to build or keep muscle, never learning how to eat enough for your body to feel safe, never learning the balance of whole foods and the impact that whole foods have on your body in midlife. It's a beautiful and substantial change when we learn how to eat real whole foods, because you can really, truly, honestly, you can eat garbage in the early days of a GLP and still lose weight, right? We've seen it happen. We've maybe been that person. And it's like, oh, it feels like magic. Oh, the things I told I wasn't able to do or I shouldn't be doing, I'm doing them and I'm still getting this result. That's so interesting. I feel like I've kind of found a loophole. But honestly, is that who you want to be? It's not. You want to be healthy. You don't want to perform healthy. You want to be healthy. Now, in this episode, I'm not telling you to go on a GLP. I'm telling you, you still have to develop the skill to be the healthiest version of you. That's the only way. Tapering isn't scary, because here's why this matters specifically for this stage of life when you're in midlife. Midlife changes our body. Right? We all are pretty aware that our bodies have been changing once we reach our 40s because hormones are not the way that they were when we were in our 30s or our 20s. Estrogen is a very protective hormone. It is declining. That is actually supposed to happen. Nothing has gone wrong because estrogen is declining. Estrogen protects your bones, your muscle, your brain, and it gives you resilience and recovery, and it gives you the bounce back that you had in your 20s and 30s, right? We could just bounce back. I remember I could work out 6 days a week and I felt like amazing and it was never a problem. And now I'm like, oh God, 5 days a week is really pushing it for me because I had the bounce back, right? I had the resiliency. And also now ovulation is just not as consistent. So when ovulation isn't as consistent or it's non-existent because we're maybe postmenopausal, we don't have the progesterone that helped us relax, manage stress, sleep well. And sleep is where recovery happens. Sleep now becomes harder too. So that recovery and that resiliency is starting to decline. We have to create it for ourselves. And the way we create resilience is how we fuel our body. We try so hard to avoid this skill, and now it's going to come back to bite you in the ass if we don't develop this skill. GLP is not the problem. We're not walking around with a GLP deficiency, right? And it certainly isn't the answer either, right? So taking a GLP is not a problem. It also is not the only answer. It's simply a tool. So I want to use this analogy. Think about a gas stove versus an electric stove. I had a gas stove in our old house, so I know what it's like cooking with a gas stove. And if you've had a gas stove and an electric stove, you know the difference. A gas stove is luxury to me now. I now have an electric stove in the house we live in now, and I'm not somebody who replaces appliances without them breaking. And so I've been with this damn electric stove for 7 years now, and she's still holding on for dear life. And I cannot wait until she dies so that I can get a gas stove, because I had a gas stove in our older house and I absolutely loved it. And if you've had a gas stove versus electric stove, you know that the gas stove cooks more evenly. Your water boils faster. You have a lot more control over the heat dispersion when you cook with a gas stove. But with the electric stove, it takes longer to boil. I have less control over the heat. But guess what? It still gets the job done. We've been eating very well for all 7 years that we've been in this house. That is the difference between using a GLP and not using a GLP. A GLP is neither mandatory nor magic. It's the stove. It doesn't replace the fact that you still have to cook the food. It doesn't replace learning how to eat for this body. You don't get to skip steps. We all know this, literally everything in our life, and yet we keep trying to avoid solving this problem. We work so much harder trying to avoid the simple thing: learning how to eat, understanding why we eat, following through consistently without needing perfection, than if we would just learn how to do the skill and simply do it with as much efficacy and doing like pretty much the best choices as much as you can is going to get you where you want to go when it comes to eating. And the truth is, not everyone is on a GLP right now. And it's not that it's also working beautifully for everyone who is on a GLP. Many times our brain will look for what it wants the answer to, right? I want to know everyone's using it so I can feel okay using it. And I want to know that everyone's getting fantastic results. So it looks for the people getting fantastic results, versus looking for the truthful, honest answer about choosing to use one or not deciding to use one. There are plenty of women on a GLP still struggling to lose weight. It isn't magic. You still have to learn what you've been avoiding your entire life. You truly cannot eat and behave like an asshole on a GLP, or you'll end up in a worse position than when you started. You'll lose weight, but you won't have the skills. And eventually it rebounds harder than it did before because you've put your body into a starvation state. If you want to use a GLP, go for it. I love a tool that makes things more efficient. I love a gas stove, but do so in a way that you'd be proud of, in a way that you'd love to tell your friends about, in a way that you'd be proud to tell your daughter, I used a GLP and I also did the work to protect my muscle, my hormones, my health, to make sure the GLP actually worked as well as it possibly could. I was responsible and I love how I behave on a GLP. I coach women on a GLP, and I also coach women not on a GLP. And here's what I see consistently. The women I coach on a GLP are getting far better results than women who are on a GLP without support. Because I'm also getting women who come to me after 6, 9, 12 months on the medication, exhausted, lost a ton of hair, not sure what to do next, lost on how much has changed inside of their body. Just because a provider prescribed it doesn't mean that you have support. I've seen things get real wonky and real weird in this GLP world. It's like all of a sudden we have lost our kind of oversight, our responsibility on taking care of the client or the patient when we're prescribing a medication. I have seen things get very distorted. I have seen clients not knowing what their dose is, being confused about their dose, just injecting whatever they think it's supposed to be, or being told one thing and it's very clear they're doing another. Right? The communication there, because we live in an online world and now because GLPs and peptides are everywhere, the responsibility has gotten real weird out there. I'm going to say it and I'm going to be completely honest. It's the Wild West out there right now. And you have to be responsible about choosing your provider, but also double checking what you're doing, knowing what you're taking, why you're taking it, what your dose is, and also is what you told what the label is. You're going to have to do your due diligence. And here's what changes for the women who do this work with or without a GLP. It stops being your crutch. It becomes your tool. You're not hoping for the best anymore. You're embodied in the way that you actually want to live your life when you learn the skills of learning how to eat for this body. While you're using the GLP, or if you choose not to use one, you can get results in either camp. But you have to learn how to eat for this body you have right now. That's the whole shift. That is everything. Hoping for the best versus living for the best. And I also want to be just as clear about the other side. You do not have to be on a GLP to create results. Remember, our brain is looking for evidence that this is the only way to do it and that it's going to be some magical place that once we're on it. I have been creating lasting real results for many years without this medication ever existing. So I know it's very possible. It's very doable to lose weight without a GLP-1 when you focus on how to fuel your body properly for this stage of life. It's not complex. It's actually very simple. You've just been trying to avoid it for most of your life. Both paths, weight loss on a GLP, weight loss without one, have the exact same problem. And I have the exact right solution. It's not complicated. It's actually very simple. And I'm going to be teaching you how to do this inside the Well Nourished program. Enrollment for this program opens on September 9, and I want you to get on the waitlist now. Not because you have to decide today, but because it lets you schedule your consultation now instead of waiting until doors open and it feels like this rush and feeling pressure to decide on the spot or before I close the doors. And then spending weeks and days in procrastination, rushing your decision at the last minute. I want you to come into this program calm, ready to know that this is the right step for you. So that means you have enough time to get your finances ready, to know what the pricing is, how you're going to afford it, how you're going to pay for it. You're going to have the conversation with your significant other now, not at the last minute, and hoping that he's just as compelled as you are and he's magically on board. Because guess what? He's probably not going to be. He doesn't live inside of your body. He can't be as compelled as you are. He can't be as convinced as you are. He doesn't know what it's like to live in your body day in and day out. And that is something we expect our husbands to do or our significant others to do. And they're simply not capable, nor should they be. So don't put yourself in the position of scrambling to convince your husband in last minute or your significant other and feeling like, oh, he just doesn't get it. I wish he would understand me. I wish he would support me. You have to know what you need far before your significant other knows that. You have to take responsibility of what your needs are before expecting your significant other to know what you need. And we're also on your consultation going to be able to decide what you actually need in this program and how I'm going to help deliver it to you to get the results that you want in your life. Reducing body fat, gaining muscle, having energy, never having to ever think or having to lose weight again in your life. And that result is actually guaranteed. So what you do is you go to the show notes and you click on the link in the show notes, or you go to my website, melissaikewellness.com/coaching, and you get your name on the wait list. You'll be able to schedule your consult, have a conversation with me. You don't have to commit to anything until doors open on September 9. And then you're going to come in calm, ready to go, knowing that this is the best step for you and feeling so responsible on choosing how to fuel your body for this stage of your life with or without a GLP. And if you decide that you want a GLP, I'm going to help support you during that transition or using that in the program as well. I have resources for you. I know how to support you. And if you need help with a referral at that point, I can help you get that in place as well. All right, my friends, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will see you next week.